Have you ever felt like someone isn't just annoyed by you, but obsessed with destroying you quietly? When someone doesn't just hate you, they want you dead. They won't throw punches. They'll throw shadows. They'll act calm on the surface, but underneath, they're plotting your downfall. And the second you stop needing them, stop chasing their approval, that's when their mask begins to slip. It's like a spider sitting in the corner of a room. You ignore it at first, too still to seem dangerous. But as soon as you turn your back, it moves closer, slowly spinning its trap. Or like a vulture circling above, not because it wants to fight, but because it's waiting for you to collapse. People like that don't attack when you're strong. They wait for you to doubt yourself, then strike. Not to hurt your body, but your name, your spirit, your foundation. Because when someone doesn't just hate you, they want you dead. Their strategy is silence. They want your fall to look like your own doing. They won't confront you directly. They'll step back and let the damage unfold on its own. And that's where your power starts, by recognizing what they're hoping you'll ignore. So how do you recognize the subtle signs of someone who's not just against you, but is actively hoping you collapse? Stick with me until the end, because the final sign isn't just disturbing. It might already be sitting next to you. Let's begin. Number 1. They smile when you struggle. Let's talk about one of the darkest signs that someone doesn't just hate you. They want to see you fall apart. They smile when you struggle. It's not always a big, obvious grin. Sometimes it's just a flicker in their eyes, a pause in their tone, or a quiet kind of satisfaction that slips out when they think you're too distracted to notice. You'll see it when you're going through something painful, when you fail, when life hits hard, when you're at your lowest. And instead of comfort, support, or even basic human empathy, they stay silent. Or worse, they subtly enjoy it. Here's the truth. When someone secretly enjoys your pain, it's more than hatred. It's resentment turned into cruelty. This isn't about disliking your personality or disagreeing with your choices. This is about wanting to see you break. They feel threatened by your strength, and when life weakens you, it makes them feel stronger. It validates their bitterness. It reassures them that your success was just luck. Your kindness was just a mask. And now that you're vulnerable, they can finally feel superior. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes your shield. The Stoics taught that people reveal their hearts not with words, but through their reactions. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings." But this time, it's not your fault. Their joy in your suffering doesn't reflect your weakness. It exposes their deep internal rot, because no truly grounded person finds pleasure in another's pain. That reaction comes from a place of spiritual emptiness. Let me share a story. A man I know, let's call him Ryan, went through a difficult period. He lost his job unexpectedly and was struggling to find stability. One evening he mentioned it to an old colleague, someone who had always seemed friendly. Ryan watched closely as the man's lips twitched, not in concern, but in satisfaction. He nodded along politely, but there was no empathy in his voice, just calculation. And over the next few weeks, Ryan noticed how this man subtly spread his downfall to others, spinning the story in ways that made Ryan look reckless, irresponsible. That's when he knew it wasn't just dislike, it was quiet cruelty. So how do you deal with someone like this? First, trust what you see. If someone consistently reacts to your pain with pleasure, that's not misreading, it's insight. Second, protect your energy. These people feed off your downfall. Don't give them the show. And finally, rise silently. Nothing destroys that kind of darkness faster than your calm recovery and quiet success. At the end of the day, people who enjoy your struggle don't just want you hurt, they want you gone. So protect your peace, move in silence, and remember, the best revenge is not payback, it's refusing to break. Number 2, they subtly undermine your reputation. Let's talk about one of the most dangerous forms of hidden hostility, someone who tries to destroy your reputation, not through open conflict, but through quiet manipulation. They won't confront you directly. They'll whisper, distort, and twist your words behind your back. Their goal? To make others question you, doubt you, even fear you, without ever getting their hands dirty. It's not hate in the open. It's poison in the shadows. Here's the truth. When someone doesn't just dislike you, but wants to see you isolated, discredited, or dismantled, they don't go loud. They go quiet and calculated. They plant seeds of doubt. They say things like, "I don't want to start drama, but," or, "Maybe you didn't hear the full story." They won't directly accuse you of anything because that would require courage. Instead, they nudge others into suspicion, all while keeping their own image clean. And by the time you realize what's happening, the damage is already done, because they've made you look like the problem without ever saying it outright. This is where Stoic wisdom offers both clarity and strength. Epictetus said, "A man's reputation is built in silence and shattered in whispers." There's no thunder, no loud explosion, just the quiet sound of your character being dismantled, one subtle suggestion at a time. But the Stoics would tell you this: your job is not to control the whisperers. Your job is to live in such a way that truth defends you louder than their lies. Because reputations built on truth survive even the longest shadows. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Emily, was thriving at her job. She was respected, competent, and well-liked. But there was one colleague, smiling in public, calculating in private, who felt threatened. This colleague began twisting small moments, retelling conversations out of context, implying that Emily was difficult to work with. It started subtly, just enough to spark doubt. Soon, Emily noticed a shift: fewer invitations, colder responses, side eyes in meetings. And she couldn't point to one loud betrayal, just a series of quiet ones. But instead of breaking down or chasing rumors, she doubled down on her integrity. She showed up. She stayed consistent. And eventually, her actions outshined their whispers. The truth re-emerged. And the manipulator? Exposed by their own pattern. So how do you handle someone who undermines your reputation behind the scenes? First, don't chase gossip. That's their battlefield, not yours. Second, stay rooted in your actions. Let your consistency speak where rumors try to erase. And finally, understand this: you don't need to defend your name to those who are quick to doubt it. The right people will see through the fog. At the end of the day, those who try to quietly destroy your reputation fear what you represent. So keep showing up. Let their whispers crumble against your truth. If you found this valuable, hit like and subscribe for more powerful insights. Number 3, they pretend to support you publicly. Let's talk about a sign that's as dangerous as it is deceptive. Someone who pretends to support you in public, but secretly hopes for your downfall. They'll clap for you when others are watching. They'll smile and say all the right things. But underneath the performance, there's bitterness. You'll notice it not in their words, but in their silence when you're not around. They'll applaud in front of others, but hope for your downfall in private. Here's the truth. The most calculated kind of enemy is the one who hides behind praise. They don't want to seem like the villain, so they put on a show. They'll say things like, "I'm so proud of you," or "That's incredible." But when you look closer, you'll notice their energy doesn't match their words. They don't follow up. They don't support behind the scenes. And when you hit a rough patch, they're nowhere to be found. Why? Because their support was never real. It was a mask. And the moment the spotlight moves away, their envy takes its place. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes essential. Marcus Aurelius said, "Do not be deceived by praise, examine the intent behind it." The Stoics understood that words are cheap. Anyone can smile, anyone can say, "Congratulations." But it's not what they say. It's what they do when no one's watching that reveals the truth. A real supporter doesn't just praise you in public. They protect your name in private. They don't just show up when it's easy. They stand by you when it's not. Let me share a story. A man I know, let's call him Jordan, had just launched a major project he'd worked on for over a year. At the launch event, one of his closest colleagues, someone he thought was a friend, gave a glowing speech in front of the crowd. But weeks later, Jordan started hearing strange feedback from people he'd never even met, comments that sounded suspiciously like things only this friend would know. Subtle jabs about how Jordan got lucky, or that maybe the success was overhyped. That's when it hit him. This person had been clapping with one hand and poisoning with the other. So how do you handle people like this? First, watch their eyes, not their applause. The mouth can lie, but envy is hard to hide. Second, don't rely on public praise as proof of private loyalty. Real support is quiet, consistent, and unconditional. And third, protect your circle. Not everyone who cheers for you wants to see you win. At the end of the day, the loudest applause isn't always the most honest. So listen with your eyes, and when their praise doesn't feel right, trust your instinct, because the truth is always louder in silence. Number 4, they try to isolate you. Let's talk about one of the most calculated signs that someone doesn't just dislike you, they want to destroy you. They try to isolate you. Not with loud attacks, but with subtle sabotage. They feed lies to your friends. They plant doubts. They whisper things just believable enough to create tension, but vague enough to avoid being traced. And over time, you notice something. People stop reaching out. The energy shifts. The silence grows louder. And just like that, you find yourself alone. Here's the truth. When someone wants to harm you without touching you, they target your support system. They don't want to confront you. They want to corner you. They know that when you have people in your corner, you're strong. But when you're alone, when your defenses are low, when you begin to question who's really on your side, that's when you're vulnerable. Their aim isn't to argue with you, it's to turn others against you, slowly and quietly, until you're standing there with no one beside you. This is where Stoic wisdom hits hard. Heraclitus said, "The wolf attacks the sheep, it separates from the herd." In other words, isolation isn't just painful, it's a strategy. The moment someone tries to pull you away from your people, it's not about disagreement, it's about destruction. And the Stoics would remind you, you must guard your peace, not just from enemies, but from those who pretend to be allies while working to disconnect you from everything that makes you strong. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Rachel, had a tight circle of friends. But over time, she noticed that one particular person in the group, someone who acted supportive, was slowly twisting narratives. They'd pull friends aside and say things like, "I don't want to get in the middle, but Rachel's been acting different lately, right?" Or, "I'm worried she's not being honest with you." Rachel never heard it directly, but she felt the coldness. The invitations stopped, conversations got shorter, and the people she once leaned on started to pull away, not because of something she'd done, but because of what they'd been led to believe. So how do you handle someone like this? First, recognize the pattern. If people around you are turning cold without cause, look at who's been whispering. Second, don't react with panic. Respond with truth. Time and consistency always reveal lies. And third, strengthen your core. The people meant for you will eventually see through the fog. At the end of the day, those who try to isolate you are afraid of your strength in connection. So don't shrink, rebuild, and remember, even the wolf fears the one who refuses to be separated from their truth. If you've watched the video this far, don't forget to leave a comment with a "thank God" and give it a like if you enjoyed the content. Your support means a lot and motivates me to keep creating more interesting videos. I hope you find inspiration in them and that we continue learning together. Thank you for your support. Number 5. They mirror you to steal from you. Let's talk about a behavior that reveals when someone doesn't just hate you, they want you dead. It's subtle, calculated, and easy to miss until it's too late. They mirror you not out of admiration, but with the intent to copy, outperform, and ultimately replace you. They study your voice, your ideas, your strategies, and even your style. And before you know it, they're presenting it as their own. Their imitation isn't a compliment, it's a weapon. Here's the truth. When someone begins to mimic your essence, your strengths, and your originality, their goal isn't to learn, it's to erase. These people don't want to be like you, they want to be you, without you in the picture. They don't seek growth, they seek position. And the fastest way for them to climb is to take what you've built and make it theirs. It's theft masked as inspiration, betrayal dressed in flattery. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes your guide. Seneca warned, "Beware those who imitate without reverence. They come not to learn, but to conquer." There's a difference between students and thieves. A student learns out of respect, with the intent to grow. But a thief learns only enough to take your place. They don't build, they replicate. And in doing so, they hope to erase the very person who gave them the blueprint. Let me share a story. A man I know, let's call him Thomas, ran a small but successful creative agency. He hired someone, bright, eager, seemingly loyal. This person mirrored everything Thomas did, his speech, his design style, even how he pitched to clients. At first, Thomas took it as flattery, but months later, that same person resigned and within weeks opened a nearly identical agency. Same branding, same pitch, same clients. It wasn't coincidence, it was strategy. And by the time Thomas realized it, half his network had already been contacted, not because his former employee hated him, but because they wanted to replace him completely. So how do you handle someone who mirrors you to steal from you? First, trust your gut. If someone's admiration feels too calculated, pay attention. Second, protect your ideas. Not everyone deserves access to your process. And third, remember, originality rooted in authenticity can't be replicated for long. Imitation may win in the short term, but truth lasts longer. At the end of the day, when someone imitates you without respect, they're not trying to grow, they're trying to eliminate. So stay rooted in what makes you real, because while they mirror, you evolve, and that's something they'll never be able to steal. Number 6. They try to push you into self-destruction. Let's talk about one of the darkest and most ruthless signs that someone doesn't just hate you, they want you dead. They don't come at you with open attacks. Instead, they provoke you, they bait you, they tempt you into losing your control. Why? Because they don't want to defeat you directly. They want you to destroy yourself. They want your downfall to look like it came from your own hands. Here's the truth. When someone secretly wants your collapse, they won't swing first. They'll push you to swing. They'll whisper doubts, poke at your insecurities, stir up drama, and then step back to watch you unravel. They'll deny they had any role in it. "I didn't do anything," they'll say. "You're overreacting." But make no mistake, every word, every move is designed to drag you out of character, so they can stand on the sidelines and say, "See, I told you they couldn't handle it." This is where Stoic wisdom becomes your greatest shield. Epictetus said, "The enemy cannot break you without your consent. Guard your mind like a fortress." They can bait you, test you, tempt you, but they can't break you unless you hand them the sword. Self-control is your weapon. Silence is your power. When someone is trying to make you explode, your calmness becomes their defeat. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Jessica, worked in a highly competitive office. One co-worker in particular had it out for her, but he never confronted her directly. Instead, he'd make sarcastic remarks during meetings, accidentally forget to include her in key emails, and drop subtle jabs in front of management. Jessica started feeling the pressure, her frustration building, her emotions tightening. One day, she almost snapped, but she caught herself. Instead of reacting, she documented everything. She stayed quiet, composed, and professional. And when it all came to light, when leadership finally saw the pattern, her calmness became undeniable proof of who was right and who was toxic. So how do you deal with people who try to push you into self-destruction? First, recognize the bait. If it feels like they want a reaction, it's because they do. Second, hold the line. Your silence, your boundaries, your composure, it's what they fear most. And finally, protect your peace. No one deserves to live rent-free in your head. At the end of the day, those who want you to self-destruct aren't just trying to win, they're trying to erase you. So don't give them the satisfaction. Stay grounded, stay focused, and let their failure be the only thing that explodes. If you found this valuable, hit like and subscribe for more powerful insights. Number 7. They frame you as the villain. Let's talk about one of the clearest signs that someone doesn't just hate you, they want you dead. It's when they twist everything you do into something ugly. You stay silent. They call it manipulation. You set boundaries. They call it arrogance. You speak honestly. They say you're fake. No matter what you do, they reshape it into something dark, something dangerous, something that fits the story they've already written in their minds. Here's the truth. People like this don't just dislike you, they need to destroy your image. They cast you as the villain so they can play the victim. They build narratives, not out of facts, but out of resentment. And the more others believe those narratives, the safer they feel in their hate. Because now, it's not just personal, it's justified. They convince themselves and everyone around them that you deserve whatever pain they're inflicting, that you're the cause, the problem, the threat. And this is where Stoic wisdom hits hard. Marcus Aurelius said, The liar needs an enemy to look righteous. Do not play his role. In other words, don't fall into the trap. Don't let their story become your script. They want you to react, to explode, defend, argue, so they can say, "See, I told you they were like this." But the Stoics teach us that true strength is found in restraint. Your dignity is not proven through battle. It's proven through your calm refusal to become the monster they're trying to paint. Let me share a story. A man I know, let's call him Daniel, was the target of a quiet smear campaign in his friend group. One person, feeling threatened by Daniel's growth, began twisting his words. If Daniel set a boundary, it was framed as selfish. If he stayed quiet, it was seen as calculating. Eventually, the tension became unbearable. But instead of trying to clear his name through endless explanation, Daniel did something radical. He stepped back. He let his actions speak. Over time, people began to see the truth, his consistency, his calmness, his integrity. And slowly, the person who cast him as the villain was exposed, not by confrontation, but by contrast. So how do you handle someone who frames you as the enemy? First, don't feed the fire. They thrive on drama. Second, stay consistent. Your character, shown over time, will speak louder than their lies. And third, let them talk. Their need to create villains says more about their emptiness than your truth. At the end of the day, when someone needs you to be the villain, it's because they fear your light. So let them live in fiction while you keep showing up in truth. If you believe this video can help others, give it a like. It helps the YouTube algorithm show it to more people. And don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content coming your way. Share your thoughts in the comments. I will definitely reply.